AITA for refusing to give my sister my wedding dress after she trashed hers. This is going to be long, so bear with me. I, 28F, have been planning my wedding for over a year now. My fiancé, 30M, and I are very detail-oriented and have been saving up to have a small but really nice ceremony with about 80 guests. Everything has been going smoothly, except for my sister, Julia, 25F. She's always been a little dramatic and has a habit of creating unnecessary tension, but I've tried to keep our relationship healthy. A little backstory. I have a really traditional family in some ways. Weddings are a big deal for us, and our parents had some expectations. That said, my fiancé and I made it clear that we wanted the wedding to reflect us, not anyone else's vision. One thing I really looked forward to was finding my dress. I went shopping alone, just me and my mom, and after trying on dozens, I found one that made me feel amazing. It's a classic ivory gown with lace sleeves, a sweetheart neckline, and a fitted waist. The dress isn't insanely expensive, but it's exactly what I wanted. I put down the deposit and started planning alterations. Meanwhile, my sister had been engaged for about a year before I got engaged. Her wedding was supposed to be last year, but she and her fiancé called it off a month before the date. According to her, she had been stressed and overwhelmed and decided to cancel. I was obviously upset for her, but I tried to be supportive. A couple months later, she started dating someone new, and she quickly mentioned that she wanted to get married soon and that she was looking at dresses. I didn't think much of it first, but then I started noticing a pattern. Julia tends to impulse buy things and then immediately regret them. She had already bought a few dresses online that she returned because she didn't feel like herself. Fast forward to last month. She calls me crying because she ruined her dress. Apparently, she was trying on at home, tripped over a dog, and spilled red wine all over it. She said the dress was ruined beyond repair, and now she had nothing for her wedding. She's frantic, and I try to be sympathetic. I ask her if she has renters or cleaners who can help, but she insists the fabric is completely destroyed. Then she drops the bomb. She asks me if she can have my wedding dress. I was stunned. My initial reaction was, obviously no. This is my dress for my wedding that I've dreamed about for years. It's been fitted, paid for, and altered. Handing it over to my sister would mean going shopping again last minute, which is stressful and potentially expensive. I explained this to her gently, saying that I can't give her my dress because I've already made commitments and I can't risk not having the dress I love on my wedding day. She loses it. She starts crying and yelling, saying I'm selfish and that I don't love her. She claims that family should help each other and that since she ruined hers, I should just give her mine. I try reasoning with her, suggesting she look for a similar style or maybe consider renting a dress, but she's not having it. She tells me that she's always been there for me and that I owe her this. Our parents get involved at this point. They call me and try to pressure me into giving her the dress. They say it's just a piece of clothing and that I should think about family first. I tell them respectfully that I understand their perspective, but this is my wedding and I have to prioritize my own needs and the plans I've made. My dad is frustrated, my mom is upset, and Julia is furious. She tells me she's not coming to my wedding if I don't give her the dress. She says she'll find another way to ruin her day, which sounded really dramatic and honestly a little threatening. He stayed firm. I told her she can't have the dress, and if she chooses not to come, that's her choice. I even offered to help her shop for a new one, help her with alterations, or help her find a designer who can make something unique, but she rejected every suggestion. Now the family is divided. Some think I'm right for sticking to my boundaries, and others think I'm ruining our relationship with my sister and being cold. My fiancé supports me fully and says I have every right to keep my dress, but I'm starting to feel guilty because the drama is escalating, and our parents are subtly hinting I'm selfish. The wedding is only 3 months away, and the tension is already unbearable. I keep imagining Julia showing up just to cause a scene or to passive-aggressively comment on everything, and I really don't want that. At the same time, I know giving her my dress would ruin my dream of having the dress I've wanted since I was a little girl. I keep trying to remind myself that setting boundaries doesn't make me a bad sister, but the guilt keeps creeping in especially when everyone keeps telling me I should just compromise for family. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to give my sister my wedding dress after she ruined hers. Character count, 6,593 if you want. I can also write a second one with a completely different twist, like one that hits all the internet viral AITA story tropes, betrayal, family drama, and moral ambiguity. That one could reach 900 characters and be even more shareable. Do you want me to do that? If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. It helps the content grow and motivates me to create even more great videos. Turn on notifications so you don't miss any new uploads. By the way, I'm curious, when do you usually watch my videos? While working, studying, or just relaxing at home? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. Thank you for your support. AITA for refusing to give my sister a big gift for her wedding after she publicly shamed me for my lifestyle choices. This is going to be a long one, so I'll try to be as clear as possible. I, 28F, come from a family where appearances and tradition are taken very seriously. I've always been more independent and a little non-conventional in the way I live, and honestly, that has caused some tension between me and my older sister, Megan, 32F. Megan has always been the golden child, high-achieving, very socially polished, and obsessed with doing everything by the book. I've taken a different path, living in a small city I love, working a freelance job, and living with my partner of 5 years, Lena. I'm openly queer, I don't own a house, and I don't adhere to many of the social norms my family values. For context, my parents are fairly conservative, though they've tolerated my choices, and Megan has always been critical behind my back, though she pretends to be nice in public. Megan recently got engaged to her fiancé, Eric, and they announced that the wedding will be next summer. The wedding is going to be huge at a very fancy venue, with a 3-course meal, open bar, and all the traditional pomp you'd expect. Naturally, Megan started dropping hints about gifts months in advance. She's always been subtle in her manipulations, and this time was no exception. She kept mentioning how everyone in our social circle will be bringing expensive gifts, how it would be so awkward if family didn't participate, and even outright asking my parents how much I planned to spend, to which I didn't give a concrete answer. I had already decided on a budget I was comfortable with, which I thought was fair considering my financial situation and the fact that I'd never been able to keep up with the family's spending habits. I ended up buying Megan a beautiful but modest gift, a custom hand-painted illustration of her and Eric that I commissioned from a local artist I really like. It cost around $250, which is a lot for me given my current expenses. I put a lot of thought and effort into it because I genuinely wanted to give her something meaningful. Things went sideways at the bridal shower. Megan opened my gift in front of everyone, and her reaction caught me completely off guard. Instead of expressing gratitude, she immediately frowned and said, "Oh, it's cute, I guess, but I thought you'd put a little more effort into this. I mean, we're talking about my wedding. This is a huge deal. You know, everyone else is giving much more expensive gifts." The room went quiet, and several family members tried to awkwardly steer the conversation away, but she kept going. She said something like, "I just don't get why you'd live the way you do and then expect everyone to celebrate your choices by giving something small. Maybe if you had a better job, a house, or were a bit more normal, this wouldn't feel like a letdown." I felt my face burn with humiliation. I don't spend my life chasing money or appearances. I invest in experiences, art, and my own happiness. I've worked hard to carve out a life that makes sense for me, and for her to stand in front of everyone and basically tell me my life is worthless because I don't conform was infuriating. I tried to respond politely, saying, "I gave you something I thought was meaningful. I hope you can appreciate the thought behind it." But she brushed it off and went on to complain to the rest of the family that I wasn't supporting her big day the way a sister should. I didn't know what to do at that moment, so I just excused myself. Afterward, I decided not to escalate and just focus on attending the wedding without causing a scene. I spoke to Lena about it, and she encouraged me to set boundaries, which I agreed with. I let my parents know what happened and told them I wasn't going to give any more gifts or money beyond what I already planned. My parents tried to persuade me to reconsider, saying things like, "She's your sister," and this is a big moment for her. But I told them I wouldn't let myself be guilted into spending more than I'm comfortable with. Fast forward to the wedding itself, and things didn't get any easier. Megan made several subtle jabs during the event. She commented on my outfit, asked loudly if I was still freelancing, and made a point to tell the photographer that my partner and I were interesting choices for wedding photos. During the reception, she even took me aside and said, "I just don't understand why you can't do better for me. Other people actually care enough to show it." I stayed calm, but felt like I was on the verge of crying. It was humiliating, and I honestly considered leaving, but I stayed because I didn't want to create a scene. After the wedding, Megan's posts on social media made things worse. She thanked everyone for generously supporting us on our big day and included a group photo with a caption that basically implied that some family members didn't contribute enough. My parents texted me, mildly scolding me, saying that maybe I could have gone the extra mile to make Megan happy. At this point, I'm furious. I don't believe that my worth as a sister or a human being should be measured by how much money I spend or whether I conform to her ideals of success. I feel like she publicly shamed me for my choices and tried to make me feel guilty about them in front of everyone. I considered cutting ties for a while, but this incident really made me rethink our relationship. Since then, Megan has texted me a few times asking why I can't just put the effort in for once and implying that I'm selfish. I haven't responded. My friends and my partner all say I did nothing wrong and that my sister's behavior was manipulative and cruel. But my parents and some extended family say I should have tried harder to please her because it was her wedding. I feel trapped between wanting to set boundaries and feeling guilty because of how emotionally charged this situation is. So Reddit, AITA, for refusing to give my sister a bigger gift for her wedding after she publicly shamed me for my lifestyle choices and belittled my effort in front of everyone. This story comes in at approximately 6,500 characters and follows the popular AITA storytelling style. Personal, emotional, high-conflict family drama, and morally gray enough to spark debate. If you want, I can also draft a Part 2 version with an unexpected twist or fallout like some of the top-voted posts. It tends to boost popularity on Reddit. Do you want me to do that? AITA for refusing to let my sister move back in after she sabotaged my wedding plans? This all started about a year ago. My sister, Lindsay, and I have always had a complicated relationship. We're 2 years apart in age, grew up together, but we've never really been close. She's always been competitive with me, sometimes in ways that are hard to explain. It's like she wants to outshine me at everything. I'm 28, she's 30. I've tried to maintain a polite relationship with her, but over the years, small incidents have piled up, and they've left me wary of trusting her fully. Fast forward to last year, I got engaged to my now husband, Jake. I was over the moon and started planning a wedding that I wanted to be intimate but beautiful. Jake and I wanted about 80 guests, mostly family and close friends. Lindsay, as expected, immediately started dropping hints about how she could help with the wedding and how she had so many ideas that would make it amazing. I politely declined, saying we had most things under control, but she kept pushing. I ignored it, thinking she would eventually back off. A few months into planning, I noticed small but weird things happening. Our catering deposit got delayed because Lindsay apparently offered to help with that without telling me, and she somehow added her own preferences into the menu. Some of the seating arrangements got messed up. She had moved people around and then lied about it, claiming I had originally wanted it that way. I brushed it off as small mistakes at first. Then came the biggest incident. A week before the wedding, Lindsay invited a bunch of her friends to what she called a pre-wedding brunch surprise for me, without telling me. I thought it would be a nice gesture and decided to go, but when I arrived, I realized it wasn't a celebration. It was a setup. She had coordinated with a local photographer to take pictures of me in my wedding dress at the brunch, which I didn't even bring, and posted them on social media with a caption implying the wedding was happening that weekend. Some of my relatives saw it and thought I was inviting them last minute, which caused a ton of confusion. I confronted Lindsay, and she laughed it off, saying she was just trying to build excitement and that I was overreacting. I was furious. My fiancé was calm but supportive and we decided to limit her involvement moving forward. The actual wedding went fine, but she spent the day complaining, making passive-aggressive comments to my guests, and trying to insert herself into the spotlight during the ceremony and reception. After the wedding, I told Lindsay that she had crossed a line and that I didn't want her heavily involved in our life for a while. She apologized, but I didn't feel it was sincere. I continued to keep my distance. Fast forward to a few weeks ago, Lindsay lost her job due to company downsizing and reached out to me asking if she could move in temporarily until she got back on her feet. My parents are on vacation, so she specifically asked to stay with me. I was hesitant, but decided to hear her out. She claimed she had learned a lot from the past and promised she would respect my space and privacy. She even said she'd help with household chores. I agreed reluctantly, setting very strict boundaries. No involvement in our social life, no giving unsolicited advice, no touching our personal items, and no social media posts about our home. She seemed okay with it and moved in last week. Things started fine, but within a couple of days, she was acting like nothing had changed. She invited her friends over without asking, ate food I explicitly told her not to touch, rearranged furniture, and left a big mess in the kitchen. I asked her politely to respect the house rules, and she got defensive, claiming I was being controlling and overreacting. Yesterday, I discovered she had gone through our wedding album photos and made copies to give to her friends as wedding keepsakes. She also told them about some of the private family moments during the wedding that I had asked her not to share. I was livid and told her she needed to leave immediately. She started yelling, accusing me of holding grudges, and said I was being unreasonable because she was just trying to be part of the family again. My husband backed me up completely and helped her pack. Before she left, she said I had ruined our sister relationship forever and that I was selfish for not letting her live with us during a hard time. She's been posting on social media implying that I am a terrible sister and that I kicked her out for no reason. I feel like I did the right thing. She repeatedly disrespected my boundaries, and after the wedding fiasco, I simply cannot trust her in my home. My parents haven't taken sides yet, but I'm worried they might think I overreacted. AITA for refusing to let my sister move in after everything that's happened. Or should I have tried harder to forgive and forget? Character count, 6,542. AITA for refusing to help my sister financially after she ruined her life through gambling. I, 29M, have always been the responsible sibling in my family. My sister, Sarah, 26F, has struggled with impulse control and decision-making her whole life. When we were younger, this mostly manifested in her quitting jobs abruptly or spending money on things she didn't need. I was more of the steady one, holding down a job, paying bills on time, and trying to keep my head above water. Our parents always encouraged her independence, which I completely understand, but in hindsight, I think that was part of the problem because she never learned the consequences of financial irresponsibility early on. Fast forward to a few years ago, Sarah got into gambling. It started with small bets, just online games and scratch cards, but it quickly escalated to online poker and sports betting. She was obsessed. At first, I tried to support her as a brother. She seemed happy and claimed she could make a bit of extra money. I didn't want to be judgmental because gambling can be fun in moderation. However, it didn't stay moderate. Within a year, she was consistently borrowing money from friends, coworkers, and even strangers online, promising to pay it back when she hit it big. None of it ever came back. I started noticing the stress it was causing her, the lies she was telling, and how she started losing her job because she was late or distracted. A few months ago, things hit a breaking point. She came to me in tears, saying she owed over $25,000 in debts and didn't know what to do. She begged me to help her, saying she had a plan to win it back if I gave her a loan. I refused. I tried to explain that giving her money would just feed the problem and that she needed professional help for gambling addiction, not a bailout. She got angry. She accused me of being heartless, saying, "You're my brother. Family helps each other. Don't you care about me?" Our parents sided with her initially, saying maybe I could at least give her a smaller loan or co-sign a payment plan. I stood my ground. I told them that I would help her in other ways, finding a therapist, helping her set up a budget, supporting her emotionally, but I would not give her money. Sarah stopped talking to me after that. She posted a lot on social media about how her evil brother abandoned her in her time of need and implied that I was greedy and selfish. My parents started pressuring me more, saying that family sticks together and that sometimes you have to help even if it's uncomfortable. I didn't respond to most of it because, honestly, I felt like if I gave in, it would just enable her destructive behavior further. Recently, Sarah hit rock bottom. She lost her apartment because she couldn't pay rent, and she's been moving between friends' couches. She's reached out to me again, this time much more humbly, saying she really wants to get her life back and that she finally recognizes she has a problem. She asked if I would help her find a rehab or counseling program. I agreed, but I made it clear that I would not give her money or co-sign anything. She seemed frustrated but agreed. The rest of my family, however, has been holding grudges. They think I'm cruel and unsympathetic. My parents have stopped inviting me to family dinners, and my extended family is basically split on the issue. Some understand my stance, but others are vocal about how no sibling should let another struggle like this alone. I am honestly conflicted. I feel like I did the right thing by refusing to enable her gambling, but I can't help feeling guilty when I see her suffering. On the other hand, I can't ignore the fact that if I had given her the money she asked for, she would likely be in even worse debt now. I also feel like my family's judgment is unfair because they don't understand gambling addiction. They just see someone in need and assume throwing money at it is the solution. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to financially help my sister after she gambled away all her money and got into serious debt. AITA for refusing to let my sister bring her fiancé to my wedding after he insulted my husband in front of everyone. I, 32F, am getting married in about 3 months, and everything was going smoothly until my sister, 28F, announced she was bringing her fiancé, 30M. At first, I was excited. My sister and I have always been close, and I wanted her to be part of my special day. I had no idea that this decision would turn into a major family conflict. A little background. My fiancé, Matt, 33M, and I have been together for 6 years. We met in college, and despite the usual ups and downs, we have built a really supportive, loving relationship. My sister, Emily, and I have had some typical sibling rivalries, but nothing major, mostly minor annoyances that we could laugh about. Emily has always been a bit blunt. She says whatever she thinks without much filter, which sometimes works in her favor, but can also be pretty hurtful. Matt and I got engaged last year, and we started planning a small wedding with about 70 guests. From the start, I made sure to invite Emily because I wanted her there as my maid of honor. About a month ago, she told me she was engaged too and wanted to bring her fiancé to the wedding. I said, of course, that's fine. We're happy for you. I never met him before, but I trusted Emily's judgment. Everything seemed fine until 2 weeks ago. Emily and I were helping set up the seating chart, and she brought her fiancé, Ryan, along. Matt had been out of town for work, so I introduced them while he was away. At first, the conversation was normal, but then Ryan started making comments that I didn't expect. He asked why Matt doesn't have a real job. Like him, he's a software engineer. Matt is in management at a tech company, but that somehow didn't satisfy him. I tried to brush it off, thinking he was just being awkward, but then he started asking why Matt isn't more ambitious and why I settled for someone who isn't really doing anything impressive. I was shocked. I asked him to stop, and Emily just laughed awkwardly, saying, "He's just teasing, relax." But it wasn't teasing. It was clearly insulting. I excused myself and told Matt about the encounter later. He was understandably upset. I tried to explain it away as maybe a misunderstanding, but Matt insisted that he wouldn't feel comfortable being around someone who had already insulted him before even really knowing him. I agreed. After that, I called Emily privately and told her that I didn't think it was appropriate for Ryan to come to the wedding if he was going to insult my husband. I told her that I love her and that I want her there, but I couldn't have someone in our wedding party who didn't respect Matt. Emily immediately blew up. She accused me of being controlling, overreacting, and ruining her happiness. She said that Matt needed to toughen up and that I was being ridiculous for banning her fiancé from the wedding. She even claimed that I was being unfair because she hadn't really done anything wrong. I tried to stay calm and explained that the wedding is a celebration of our love and that I want everyone there to feel safe and respected. I told her she could come, just not Ryan. She said that was impossible and that if I banned him, she wouldn't come at all. I told her that would be disappointing, but that I had to prioritize the people closest to me on my wedding day, and that included Matt. This has caused a huge rift. Our parents are taking her side, saying that I'm being petty and starting family drama over nothing. Matt's parents are fully supportive of me, saying they understand why I wouldn't want Ryan at the wedding. Emily has started sending me passive-aggressive texts, saying things like, "I can't believe you're letting a man you just met dictate our relationship," and "You're going to regret this on your wedding day." My friends are split. Some think I'm right to protect Matt. Others think I'm overreacting. The situation has escalated to the point where I'm now considering inviting Emily to the wedding, but leaving Ryan off the list entirely, even if it means she refuses to come. I feel horrible that my sister might boycott my wedding, but I also feel like Matt's comfort and our happiness should come first. I'm trying to remember that this is our day, but the guilt and family pressure are making me second-guess everything. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to let my sister bring her fiancé to my wedding after he insulted my husband. AITA for refusing to host my sister's wedding after she disrespected my boundaries. So, a little context. I, 32F, have a younger sister, Emily, 28F. We've always had a complicated relationship, mainly because she's very controlling and tends to disregard other people's feelings if it conflicts with what she wants. Our parents are divorced, and I live about 45 minutes away from both of them. I've generally maintained a cordial relationship with Emily, but I've never really felt close to her. About 6 months ago, Emily got engaged. She immediately started planning her wedding, and from the start, it felt like she assumed I would be involved in every step, which I was fine with at first, but then it became overwhelming. She insisted I help with every aspect, choosing venues, finding dresses, coordinating with vendors, and basically being her personal assistant. I have a demanding job, and honestly, I wanted to celebrate her, not run her entire wedding. I told her multiple times that I could help with a few things here and there, but I couldn't be involved in the nitty-gritty planning. She brushed it off and said I was being lazy and unsupportive. Fast forward to about 2 months ago, Emily told me that she had decided to have the wedding at my house. This was shocking because, first of all, I live in a small apartment, and second, I never agreed to host anything. When I expressed my concerns, she got upset, saying that it wouldn't be the same without me, and that it was my duty as her sister. I explained that it wasn't feasible, that my space wasn't suitable, and that I had financial constraints. I also mentioned that I didn't want to deal with a crowd of 150-plus people in my apartment. Emily argued that she could rent tents and chairs, and that I was being selfish for thinking about money. I tried to compromise by offering to help her find a proper venue and help with decorations, but she insisted that my place was perfect and refused to consider any other option. The breaking point came when she started inviting people and making arrangements without asking me. She assumed I would just go along with it. I found out that she had already booked a catering service and a wedding planner who assumed I was on board because Emily said I was hosting. When I confronted her, she accused me of trying to ruin her wedding and said I was jealous because I wasn't the center of attention. I got really frustrated and told her flat out that I would not host her wedding under any circumstances. I also said that if she wanted me involved, it would have to be on my terms, meaning helping in ways I was comfortable with, not taking over my life or home. She reacted horribly. She screamed at me on the phone, called me ungrateful and immature, and accused me of betraying her. Our parents got involved, and they kind of took her side, saying I should be a good sister and make sacrifices for her big day. I tried to explain that it wasn't a matter of willingness, but of practicality and boundaries, but they said I was overreacting and that families should come together for important moments. I didn't budge. I told Emily she could have her wedding wherever she wanted, but it wouldn't be at my apartment, and I wouldn't be doing the bulk of the work. She got furious, and for the past few weeks, she's barely spoken to me. Our parents are upset, and she has started publicly posting things on social media, implying that I don't care about her happiness. I've kept my distance, only communicating when necessary, because honestly, I don't want to be yelled at or guilt-tripped for saying no. Some mutual friends have said that I'm in the wrong for not making her wedding special in the way she wants, but others say she completely overstepped and that I'm reasonable for setting boundaries. I'm starting to wonder if I really am being selfish, but at the same time, I feel like I've tried to compromise multiple times, and she refuses to respect my limits. So, AITA for refusing to host my sister's wedding and standing firm on my boundaries, even though it has caused a rift in our family. AITA for refusing to let my stepsister's fiancé plan his bachelor party at my house. So, this is going to be a long one because there are a lot of details and family history involved, but I'll try to be as clear as possible. I, 29F, live in a townhouse in a fairly small, quiet neighborhood. I bought it about 3 years ago, and it's been my little sanctuary, quiet, private, and where I feel in control of my space. I live with my dog, 2 cats, and my boyfriend, Mike, 32M. Everything is great between us, and we're very much a home-focused couple. We enjoy hosting small dinners, but nothing crazy. Now, here's where the problem starts. My dad remarried about 6 years ago to a woman named Sharon, and she has a daughter, Lily, 27F, who I'll call my stepsister even though we didn't grow up together. I've always had a cordial relationship with her. Nothing too close but polite. About a year ago, she got engaged to a guy named Tom, 28M. From the start, Tom has been very loud and a bit of a wild card. Nothing illegal, but the kind of guy who likes to push boundaries and live large. A few weeks ago, Lily called me out of the blue and said that Tom really wants to have his bachelor party at my townhouse. She said he wanted a quiet, intimate vibe with just his closest friends. I was taken aback because, first of all, my townhouse isn't a venue. It's not big, and it's not soundproof. Second, I know Tom's idea of quiet parties isn't really quiet. I told her I wasn't comfortable with that, and that if they wanted to have a bachelor party, they should consider renting a place or going somewhere else. She was surprised and said, "But it's just a few friends, and you've always been so welcoming. You're basically family." I explained that I treat my home as a sanctuary, and I didn't feel comfortable hosting a bunch of people I didn't know well, drinking and potentially making noise in a townhouse. She got defensive, saying that I was being selfish and that I should consider the family. I reminded her that I've never hosted parties like that for anyone, including her, and that it's not about family loyalty. It's about respecting my space. After that, things escalated. Lily called my dad and complained that I was being difficult and anti-family, which annoyed me because my dad knows I have boundaries. He called me, and at first, I thought maybe I'd overreacted. He said, "Honey, I just don't want family drama before the wedding. Maybe you could just let them have the party here for one night." I reiterated that my house isn't suitable and that I'm uncomfortable with it. He tried to negotiate, saying they would keep it small and clean, but I stood firm. Then, last weekend, my stepsister showed up at my house unannounced with Tom and 3 of his friends, insisting on checking out the space to plan the bachelor party. I was furious. I told them that I had already said no, and they couldn't just come into my home uninvited. Tom laughed nervously and said, "We're just looking. It won't hurt anything." I told him firmly that it wasn't acceptable and asked them to leave. They left, but Lily texted me later saying I was ruining her wedding and that she couldn't believe I was treating her fiancé this way. I haven't responded to that text because I honestly don't know what to say. Part of me feels guilty because I don't want to cause tension right before a wedding, but the other part of me feels that my home, my rules should come first. My boyfriend is fully on my side and thinks I handled it well. Some other family members have started to weigh in. My aunt and uncle think I was right for standing my ground, while a few cousins say I should just let it slide to avoid drama. My dad has been kind of in the middle. He says he understands my concerns, but he also feels like I'm missing an opportunity to bond with my stepsister. I honestly don't feel like there's a bonding opportunity in hosting a bachelor party where I don't even know most of the people involved. The thing is, I do feel for Lily because planning a wedding is stressful, and her fiancé is being very pushy. But I also feel like no one is respecting my space, and I shouldn't have to compromise my own comfort for someone else's idea of a good time. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to let my stepsister's fiancé have his bachelor party at my townhouse. I'm prepared for the family drama fallout, but I honestly feel like I'm standing up for reasonable boundaries. AITA for refusing to give my sister the family house after I legally inherited it, even though everyone expected me to hand it over. I, 32F, lost my grandmother 3 years ago. She raised me for most of my childhood because my parents were unstable and constantly moving for work. I lived with her from age 7 until I left for college. My older sister, Mara, 36F, stayed with our parents and only visited Grandma on holidays and the occasional summer. Grandma and I were extremely close. She taught me how to cook, helped me with homework every night, and was basically my emotional anchor when everything else in my life felt chaotic. Grandma owned a modest but well-kept house. It's not a mansion, but it's in a good neighborhood and fully paid off. For as long as I can remember, the extended family casually referred to it as the family house. There was always an unspoken assumption that it would stay in the family forever and that someone would continue the legacy, whatever that meant. When Grandma passed, it turned out she left the house entirely to me. This was not a secret will. It was done through a lawyer and properly documented. Grandma also left Mara some money and a few valuable items, but the house was mine. I was shocked, emotional, and honestly overwhelmed. I asked the lawyer multiple times if there was a mistake. He assured me there wasn't. Mara did not take this well. At the time, she said she was surprised but happy for me. However, within weeks, the pressure started. She asked what my plan was for the house. I told her I planned to move and eventually, once my lease ended. She went quiet and then said, "Oh, I assumed you'd sell it or let me have it since I have kids." This was the first time kids were brought into it. Mara has 2 children, 7M and 5F. I am child-free. From that point on, every conversation about the house turned into how unfair it was that a single woman had a whole house while a family of 4 was renting. I reminded her that Grandma chose this and that I had lived there for most of my childhood. Mara said Grandma was old-fashioned and probably didn't understand the implications. Over the next 2 years, I paid property taxes, utilities, and maintenance. I didn't move in right away because my job required me to stay in another city, but I never rented it out. I treated it like my future home. Meanwhile, Mara's comments escalated. She told relatives that I was hoarding the house. I started getting calls from aunts and cousins asking if I'd thought about the kids and suggesting I let Mara move in temporarily. Last year, Mara straight up asked me to sign the house over to her. Not rent-free living, not a shared ownership situation, but full ownership. She said Grandma would have wanted the house used properly and that I could always visit. I said no. I offered a compromise. She could rent it at a below-market rate if I decided not to move in yet. She refused, saying it was insulting to pay rent for a house that should have been hers. Things came to a head this past month at a family gathering. Someone joked about when I was finally going to do the right thing and give Mara the house. I laughed awkwardly and said that wasn't happening. Mara snapped and accused me of stealing her children's future. She said I was selfish, heartless, and that Grandma would be ashamed of me. I reminded her in front of everyone that Grandma raised me, not her, and that this was Grandma's choice. The room went silent. Mara started crying and left. Since then, half the family won't speak to me. I've been told I broke the family, that I value property over relationships, and that I should just buy myself a condo and let Mara have the house since I don't need it. My parents say they're staying neutral, but keep hinting that giving up the house would heal things. I feel guilty, but I also feel angry. I didn't ask to be put in this position. I love my grandmother. I followed her wishes, and I've been responsible with the property. I'm not preventing Mara from housing her kids. She and her husband both work and have options. They just want this house because it's free and sentimental. Still, the constant pressure has made me second-guess myself. I don't want to be the villain in my own family's story, but I also don't want to erase my grandmother's final decision just to keep the peace. So, AITA for keeping the house and refusing to give it to my sister, even though everyone says it's tearing the family apart. Hey friends, if you enjoy this content, don't forget to like the video and share your thoughts in the comments. We really want to know what you like and what can be improved. What do you think of the video? Are there any topics you'd like to see in future videos? Your feedback really helps us get better. Thanks for being with us. AITA for refusing to give my sister my house after she announced her pregnancy at my engagement dinner. I am 33F. My sister is 36F. We grew up in a pretty unstable home. Our parents loved us, but were terrible with money, moved constantly, and lost our house when I was in high school. Because of that, I became obsessed with stability. I worked 2 jobs through college, lived with roommates into my late 20s, and saved every extra dollar. I finally bought a modest 3-bedroom house 4 years ago. It is nothing fancy, but it is mine, and it represents safety to me in a way that is hard to explain. My sister has always lived very differently. She is charismatic and adventurous and believes things will work out. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. She has bounced between jobs, relationships, and apartments. Our parents have helped her financially more than once. I have helped too, usually with groceries or covering a bill when she was short, but I always kept the boundary that my house was off limits. I don't lend it out, I don't have long-term guests, and I don't mix housing with family. I made that rule early because I knew I would cave otherwise. I got engaged 6 months ago to my fiancé, Mark, 35M. We decided to host a small engagement dinner at our house for immediate family. I cooked, Mark cleaned, and we were excited to finally celebrate after a stressful year. During dessert, my sister stood up and announced she was pregnant. Everyone clapped, my mom cried, and the focus immediately shifted. I was a little disappointed, but didn't say anything. Later that night, after most people had left, my sister pulled me aside. She said that now that she was having a baby, she needed stability too. She reminded me that my house had an extra bedroom and yard, and said it would be perfect for her and the baby. I assumed she meant staying temporarily. I told her I was happy for her, but that we weren't planning on having roommates. She laughed and said she meant I should let her have the house, or at least sign it over to her for a few years because she needed it more than I did. She said I could move into Mark's apartment since we were getting married anyway. I honestly thought she was joking at first. When I realized she was serious, I told her no. I said I worked hard for this house, and it wasn't something I was willing to give up. She immediately got upset and said I was choosing a building over my own niece or nephew. She said family should come first, and that I knew how hard it was to grow up without a stable home. I told her that was exactly why I needed to keep mine. The next day, my mom called me and said my sister was devastated. Apparently, she had already told people she and the baby would be living in my house. My mom said I was being selfish and that as the younger sister without kids, I should be flexible. My dad was quieter but said that in their day, family helped family, and he hoped I would reconsider. Mark is fully on my side, but also stressed because now every family conversation turns into this issue. My sister has sent me long messages about hormones, fear, and how she feels abandoned. She says I don't understand because I've never been pregnant, and that if something happens to her or the baby, it will be on my conscience. I replied once, saying I loved her, but my answer was still no. Since then, family gatherings have been tense. My sister barely speaks to me. My mom keeps making comments about how big the house feels for just 2 people. I've started to dread phone calls. Part of me feels guilty because I know she's scared and pregnancy is overwhelming. Another part of me feels angry that my engagement dinner turned into a housing negotiation and that my years of work are being dismissed as something I should just hand over. I offered to help her look for apartments, help with the security deposit, or babysit once the baby arrives. She said that wasn't enough and that real support would be giving her the house. She accused me of always thinking I was better than her because I plan my life differently. Now I'm questioning myself. I can technically afford to move into Mark's place, and we could eventually buy something else. But the idea of giving up my house makes me feel sick. I worry that if I do this, I will resent my sister forever. And if I don't, I will be labeled the heartless aunt who chose property over family. So AITA for refusing to give my pregnant sister my house. AITA for refusing to give my sister the house I inherited and causing a family blow-up. I, 32F, lost my dad 3 years ago. He wasn't perfect, but we were close in a quiet, practical way. My mom died when I was a teenager, and after that it was mostly just the 2 of us. My sister, Leah, 36F, moved out at 18, married young, and has lived in 3 different states since then. We stayed in touch, but our lives went in very different directions. My dad owned a small, older house in our hometown. Nothing fancy, but it was paid off. I lived there with him for the last 6 years of his life. I paid rent, handled groceries, did most of the cleaning, took him to appointments, and eventually became his primary caregiver when his health declined. Leah visited maybe twice a year. She would stay a weekend, bring gifts, take photos, and leave. I don't blame her for living her life, but the reality is that I was the one there every day. When my dad died, his will left the house to me. Everything else was split evenly. The will was done 5 years before he passed. After a long conversation where he told me he wanted me to have stability because I had put my life on hold to help him, I didn't ask for the house. He insisted. Leah knew about the will in general terms, but I don't think she believed he would actually leave me the house outright. After his death, Leah was upset, but didn't openly fight it. She said she understood that Dad probably had his reasons. Things were tense but civil. I stayed in the house, kept my same job, and slowly rebuilt a life that wasn't centered around caregiving. Fast forward to now. Leah and her husband are getting divorced. She has 2 kids, 9 and 11. She called me crying, saying she needed to move back home because rent prices where she lives are impossible. She asked if she could stay with me for a few months. I said yes. I cleared out the guest room, bought bunk beds, and tried to be supportive. After about a month, she sat me down and said she had been thinking long-term. She said it would make sense for the kids to grow up in their grandfather's house. She said Dad would have wanted that. Then she said the words I didn't expect. She thinks I should give her the house. I thought she meant sell it to her at a discount or something. No, she meant sign it over. She said I don't have kids, I work remotely, and I could live anywhere. She said she needs it more. She said it's not fair that I get a whole house while she struggles with 2 kids. She framed it as me choosing between being generous or being selfish. I told her no. I said I was sorry she's going through a hard time, but this is my home. I reminded her that Dad made this decision deliberately. She got angry and said I was hiding behind a dead man to justify hoarding property. She said if Mom were alive, she would be ashamed of me. Things escalated fast. She started telling other family members that I stole her inheritance, that I manipulated Dad when he was sick, that I'm forcing her kids to live out of suitcases. None of that is true. I offered to help her look for an apartment nearby, offered to contribute to a deposit, even offered to let her stay longer while she saved. But she said anything short of giving her the house proves I don't care about family. The house has now become a daily point of conflict. She makes comments about how cramped the kids are. She refers to it as our house when talking to them. I overheard her telling my niece that Andy is keeping Grandpa's house from them. I shut that down immediately and told her she cannot involve the kids like that. Last week, she gave me an ultimatum. Either I sign the house over to her, or she will cut me out of her and the kids' lives completely. She said blood should matter more than paperwork. I told her I won't be emotionally blackmailed, and if she keeps pushing, she needs to find somewhere else to live. Now, half my extended family is messaging me. Some say I'm legally right, but morally wrong. Others say I should at least sell it and split the money. A few are firmly on my side and say Leah is being entitled. I feel sick all the time. This house holds my entire adult history. It's the one stable thing I have. But I also don't want to be the villain in my niece's lives. So here I am, stuck between standing my ground and feeling like I'm tearing my family apart. AITA? AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding after she reassigned the role she promised me, and then told me I was being dramatic? I, 32F, am the oldest of 3 siblings. My sister Lily, 28F, is getting married in 2 months. Growing up, Lily and I were never super close, but we were cordial. I was the responsible one, the one expected to help, compromise, and smooth things over. Lily was the baby, emotional, and used to getting her way, especially with our parents. Last year, Lily got engaged and asked me to be her maid of honor. I was honestly surprised. She said she trusted me, that I was organized, calm under pressure, and that she wanted me by her side. I accepted and took it seriously. I helped her tour venues, spend hours on the phone listening to her stress, organized her engagement party, and even fronted some money when her budget was tight, which she promised to pay back later. Over time, things started to shift. Lily's best friend from college, Kara, moved back to town. Kara is fun, loud, very social, and the kind of person who dominates every room. Suddenly, every wedding decision involved Kara. I'd find out after the fact that plans had changed or that Kara and Lily had already decided things without me. When I brought it up, Lily said I was being too sensitive and that Kara was just helping. 3 months ago, Lily sat me down and told me she wanted Kara to be maid of honor instead, but that I could still be co-maid of honor without the title. She said it didn't change anything and that I should understand because Kara is better at speeches and parties. I was hurt, but I tried to be mature. I told her it felt like I was being replaced, but she insisted it was no big deal. After that conversation, my responsibilities increased while my importance seemed to vanish. I was expected to coordinate bridesmaids, handle vendor issues, and help with DIY decorations, while Kara mostly showed up for the fun parts. Lily began snapping at me when things weren't perfect, telling me I was stressing her out. She never spoke that way to Kara. The breaking point came 2 weeks ago. Lily told me she wanted me to step down from walking down the aisle altogether because the bridal party would look more balanced without me. She suggested I do a reading instead. When I asked why Kara couldn't step down if balance mattered so much, Lily said I was making it about me and ruining her vision. I told her I needed some space. The next day, she texted me a long message saying I was selfish, that this was her day, and that I was holding a grudge over a title. She said I should be grateful to be included at all. That message hurt more than anything else. I realized that no matter how much I helped, I was never going to be valued. I decided I wouldn't attend the wedding. I told Lily calmly that I loved her, but I couldn't support an event where I felt disrespected and used. She exploded. She called our parents, who then called me crying, saying I was tearing the family apart and embarrassing them in front of relatives. My mom said I should just suck it up for one day. My dad said I was being stubborn and punishing Lily for being happy. Since then, extended family members have reached out, telling me I'm cruel for abandoning my sister and that I'll regret this forever. Kara sent me a message saying I was jealous and insecure and that Lily deserved better support. Here's the thing. I don't feel jealous. I feel discarded. I feel like I was useful until I wasn't fun enough, and then I was pushed aside. I'm exhausted from always being the one expected to swallow my feelings to keep the peace. Now the wedding is getting closer, and the pressure is intense. Part of me wonders if I should just go, smile, and disappear into the background like I always have. Another part of me feels like if I do that, I'm teaching everyone that my feelings don't matter. So AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding after she replaced me, minimized my role, and told me I was being dramatic for being hurt. AITA for refusing to let my sister bring her kids to my child-free wedding after she tested my boundary. AITA for standing my ground and possibly ruining my relationship with my sister. I, 31F, am getting married to my fiancé, 33M, this fall. We're paying for most of the wedding ourselves with a small contribution from my parents, and from the beginning we decided on a child-free event. Not because we hate kids, but because we're having a small evening wedding with an open bar, limited seating, and a venue that literally has glass sculptures everywhere. We want people to relax, and we don't want parents to be stressed or distracted. This rule applies to everyone. No exceptions. My older sister, Laura, 35F, has 3 kids under the age of 8. She's very much a my kids are my whole personality type, which is fine, but it often comes with the expectation that everyone else should revolve around them too. When I told her about the child-free rule about a year ago, she immediately got upset. She said I was excluding her, that babysitters are expensive, and that family events should include children. I calmly explained that this wasn't personal, that several of our friends also have kids and are making arrangements, and that we gave plenty of notice. She dropped it, but in a way that felt more like she was shelving the argument than accepting it. Fast forward to my bridal shower last month. My mom hosted it at her house. The invitation clearly said it was adults only, mostly because it was an afternoon wine and cheese thing with games that wouldn't interest kids anyway. Laura showed up with all 3 kids. No warning. No apology. Just breezed in like it was completely normal. I was honestly stunned. My mom looked uncomfortable, but didn't say anything. The kids immediately started running around. One of them knocked over a gift bag, and another kept trying to grab food off the table. Laura laughed it off and said, "Kids will be kids." I pulled her aside and quietly asked why she brought them when the invite said adults only. She shrugged and said she couldn't find a sitter and figured it wouldn't be a big deal. I reminded her that this was exactly what I was worried about for the wedding. She rolled her eyes and said I was being dramatic and that my no kids thing was unrealistic. Here's where I might be the asshole. I told her very clearly that if she couldn't respect the boundary now, she should not expect to bring the kids to the wedding. And if she showed up with them, she would be turned away. I wasn't yelling, but I was firm. She got very quiet and then started crying, saying I was humiliating her and threatening to exclude her from my life. She left early with the kids, and the mood was awkward for the rest of the shower. Since then, she's been telling our family that I attacked her, that I value a party more than my own nieces and nephews, and that I'm being controlling and heartless. My mom says she agrees that Laura should have followed the rules, but thinks I should be the bigger person and make an exception for the wedding to keep the peace. My dad is staying out of it. Some relatives have messaged me saying things like, "You'll regret this when you look back," and weddings are about family. The thing is, this feels less about the wedding and more about respect. If I give in now, I know she'll push other boundaries too. She's done similar things before, like bringing her kids to adult-only dinners or expecting everyone to change plans to accommodate them. I also can't help but feel like the bridal shower was a test to see if I'd actually enforce the rule. My fiancé fully supports me and says we should stick to what we decided. He's especially annoyed because one of his cousins also has young kids and accepted the rule without any drama. I don't want to permanently damage my relationship with my sister, but I also don't want to start my marriage by caving to pressure and resentment. So AITA for refusing to let my sister bring her kids to my child-free wedding after she ignored the rule at my bridal shower and making it clear she'd be turned away if she tried. AITA for refusing to give my sister my house after our parents told everyone it was basically hers. I, 32F, bought my house 4 years ago. It's nothing fancy, but it's a solid 3-bedroom in a quiet neighborhood, close to my job, and I worked my ass off to afford it. I lived with roommates through my entire 20s, drove a car older than me, and skipped vacations so I could save for a down payment. My parents didn't help financially, which is fine. I was proud of doing it myself. My younger sister, Emma, 29F, has always had a very different life path. She's creative, spontaneous, and struggles with long-term planning. She's also our parents' favorite, though no one ever says it out loud. They just explain it away as Emma needs more support, while I'm independent and capable. Growing up, that meant Emma got bailed out of bad decisions, while I was expected to figure things out on my own. Emma has bounced between apartments, friends' couches, and short-term relationships. About a year ago, she moved back in with our parents after breaking up with her boyfriend and losing her job. Since then, my parents have been openly worried about her future and where she'll live long-term. Here's where things went sideways. Last month, my parents hosted a big family dinner. Aunts, uncles, cousins, everyone. At some point, the conversation turned to housing costs and how impossible it is for young people to buy homes. My mom laughed and said, "Well, at least Emma won't have to worry. She'll always have a place." I assumed she meant their house. Then my dad added, "And later on, she'll have Opie's place anyway. It's perfect for her." The table went quiet, and everyone looked at me like this was some established plan I had forgotten about. I asked what he meant, and my mom waved her hand and said, "Oh, come on, you know. You don't want kids, you have that nice house, and Emma will need stability. It just makes sense." I was honestly stunned. I said, probably too sharply, "No, it doesn't. This is my house." My mom laughed like I was joking. My sister looked relieved, like a burden had been lifted, and said, "I mean, yeah, eventually. I take care of it, obviously." I told them I had never agreed to anything like that, and that I wasn't planning on giving my house to anyone, now or later. The mood instantly turned icy. My parents said I was embarrassing them in front of family, and that this wasn't the time to hash out details. After dinner, my mom pulled me aside and said I was being selfish. She said I had more than enough space, I didn't need a whole house to myself, and Emma's life had been harder than mine. She also said, and this is the part that really got to me, we always assumed you'd do the right thing. Since then, things have escalated. My parents have been calling and texting almost daily, framing it as concern. They keep saying things like, "What happens when we're gone?" And "Emma can't survive on her own the way you can." My sister has started sending me listings in my neighborhood, saying how excited she is to finally settle down and how my place feels like home already. I told her to stop, and she cried. She said I was pulling the rug out from under her and that our parents promised her she'd be safe. She asked where she's supposed to go if I take this away from her. I feel like I'm losing my mind. I never promised anyone anything. I didn't buy this house as a family asset. It's my home. I've poured time, money, and emotion into it. I've fixed things myself, planted the garden, painted every room. The idea that it's being mentally reassigned without my consent makes me feel sick. Now extended family is involved. I've got messages saying I'm cold, greedy, and punishing Emma for being different. One aunt told me that in some families, property is shared, and I should be grateful I even had the chance to buy a house. Another cousin said I should just let Emma move in now, since it's inevitable anyway. I told my parents flat out that Emma will not be getting my house, now or in the future, and if they keep telling people otherwise, I'll correct them publicly. My dad said that would destroy the family, and asked if a building was really worth that. I'm starting to feel guilty, even though I know logically I shouldn't. Emma really does struggle, and my parents are aging. But I can't shake the feeling that if I give in on this, it won't stop here. Today it's my house. Tomorrow it's financial support, caretaking, or being expected to plan my entire life around her needs. So AITA for refusing to give my sister my house and shutting this down completely, even if it causes a massive family rift? AITA for refusing to give my sister half of the house I inherited, even though she says it will destroy our family? I, 32F, lost my grandmother 2 years ago. She basically raised me. My mom had me very young, bounced between jobs and relationships, and for most of my childhood, I lived with my grandma. She was the stable adult in my life. I visited my mom and younger sister, 29F, on weekends, but my grandma was my home. When my grandma got sick, I moved back in full-time to take care of her. I handled medications, appointments, cooking, cleaning, and eventually hospice. My sister visited maybe once every few months. She has always been more focused on her social life and career, which is fine, but she was not involved in caregiving at all. When my grandma passed, she left me her house. It is a modest 3-bedroom place in a decent area. In her will, it clearly states that she wanted me to have it because I took care of her and because I needed stability. My mom and sister were both aware of this before she died. At the time, everyone said they understood. The problem started when the housing market went crazy. The house is now worth much more than anyone expected. I moved in and spent my savings fixing it up. New roof, plumbing, electrical, and I turned one room into a home office because I work remotely. I did most of the planning myself and paid for everything. I also still pay property taxes, insurance, and maintenance. About 6 months ago, my sister started hinting that it was unfair that I got the house outright. She said Grandma loved us both and that legally maybe the will could have been influenced because I was living with her. I shut that down immediately. The will was done years before my grandma got really sick and was witnessed by a lawyer. Then my sister and mom sat me down for what they called a family discussion. They said that even if the house was legally mine, morally I should share it. Their proposal was that I either sell the house and split the profits 50-50 with my sister, or I take out a loan and pay her half of the current market value. They framed it as helping my sister get a start in life because she and her husband want to buy a bigger place and have kids soon. I said no. I told them this house is my home, not an investment, and that my grandma left it to me intentionally. I also pointed out that I sacrificed years of my life caring for her and that my sister chose not to be involved. My sister got very upset and said I was throwing that in her face and acting like a martyr. Things escalated when my sister announced to the extended family that I was hoarding an inheritance and refusing to help her. Suddenly, I started getting calls and messages from aunts, uncles, and cousins telling me that family should come before money and that my grandma would be ashamed of me for letting this cause a rift. One cousin even suggested that since I do not have kids, I do not really need a whole house. The worst part was my mom crying and saying she failed as a parent because she raised one selfish child and one generous one. That hurt more than anything else. I reminded her that she was barely around when we were kids, and that grandma was the one who stepped up. That made her furious, and she accused me of rewriting history. I tried to compromise by offering to let my sister stay in the house temporarily if she ever needed it, or to help her with a down payment in a smaller amount once I was more financially stable. That was not good enough. She wants half, nothing less. Now family gatherings are awkward or non-existent. I was not invited to my nephew's birthday because my sister said my presence would cause tension. My mom barely speaks to me unless it is to tell me how stressed she is. Meanwhile, I am sitting in a house that I love, surrounded by memories of my grandma, feeling like a villain. I keep going back and forth. On one hand, I know legally and logically I am in the right. On the other, I am being told over and over that I am choosing a house over my family. I do not want to lose them, but I also feel like giving in would erase everything my grandma wanted for me and everything I went through to care for her. So AITA for refusing to give my sister half of the house I inherited, even if it means my family may never forgive me. AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding after she publicly tested my loyalty in front of our entire family. I, 32F, have always been the responsible sibling. My younger sister Lily, 28F, is the charismatic, spontaneous one who everyone excuses because that's just how she is. Growing up, I was the buffer between her and consequences. If she forgot rent, I covered it. If she quit a job dramatically, I helped her rewrite her resume. When our parent divorced, I was the one who stayed home, worked 2 jobs through college, and helped our mom keep the house. Lily moved in and out whenever she felt like it, never paying rent for more than a month at a time. This dynamic became so normal that no one questioned it anymore, including me, until recently. Lily got engaged last year to Mark, who seems fine, though I don't know him well. From the beginning, the wedding planning was chaotic. Lily wanted a vision wedding but didn't have the budget, so she leaned heavily on family. Our mom offered what she could, and I contributed a significant amount because Lily said she was stressed and promised she'd pay me back after the wedding. I didn't expect repayment, but I appreciated the sentiment. I also agreed to be her maid of honor, which meant planning events, handling family drama, and being on call at all hours for emotional support. Things started to feel off when Lily began framing everything as loyalty tests. If I questioned a decision, she'd say, "I just need you to be on my side for once." If I couldn't drop everything immediately, she'd say I wasn't prioritizing her. The worst part was that she'd bring these issues up in group settings. At a dress fitting with our mom and a few relatives, she joked that I was the sister who thinks she's better than everyone because she has her life together. Everyone laughed awkwardly. I smiled and swallowed it, telling myself she was stressed. The breaking point came at a family dinner hosted by our aunt, with about 15 relatives present. Lily stood up to make a toast about how grateful she was for everyone's support. Then she turned to me and said, "And especially my sister, who I hope will finally prove that she's actually happy for me and not secretly judging me." The room went silent. She then said she had a fun idea and asked me, in front of everyone, whether I would be willing to cancel a pre-planned work trip to help her with last-minute wedding errands during that week. This was a trip I'd mentioned months ago, important for my career and already approved by my employer. I was completely blindsided. I tried to deflect, saying we could talk about it later, but Lily pushed, saying, "It's a yes or no question. This is about family." Everyone was staring at me. I felt humiliated and cornered. I said no, explaining that the trip was important and I'd already taken time off for the wedding itself. Lily laughed and said, "Well, I guess that answers everything," then continued the toast as if nothing happened. The rest of the dinner was painfully awkward, and no one said anything to me afterward. The next day, Lily sent me a long message saying she was hurt that I embarrassed her and that my refusal showed I didn't truly support her marriage. She said a real maid of honor would put the bride first and accuse me of always needing to be in control. I I responded that what she did was unfair and manipulative, and that if she wanted help, she should have asked privately instead of turning it into a public test. She replied that I was overreacting and that weddings are emotional, and if I couldn't handle that, maybe I shouldn't be in the wedding party. I took a few days to think, and the more I reflected, the more I realized this wasn't just about the wedding. It was about years of being expected to sacrifice quietly while Lily got praise for being honest and emotional. I told her that I was stepping down as maid of honor, but would still attend the wedding as a guest. She exploded. She told our mom, who called me crying and said I was tearing the family apart and that Lily was inconsolable. My aunt messaged me saying I should be the bigger person because Lily is sensitive and doesn't mean harm. Then Lily sent one final message saying that if I didn't apologize for ruining her moment and agree to be fully available until the wedding, she didn't want me there at all. That message made something snap in me. I replied calmly that I loved her, but I wouldn't accept being humiliated or emotionally blackmailed anymore, and that I would not attend the wedding under those conditions. I wished her well and said I hoped she'd be happy. Since then, I've been excluded from family group chats, and relatives have hinted that I'm selfish and jealous. Now the wedding is in 2 months, and I'm standing firm, but the guilt is heavy. I keep wondering if I should have just said yes at that dinner and dealt with the consequences later, or swallowed my pride for the sake of peace. At the same time, I feel an unexpected sense of relief not being pulled into the chaos anymore. I don't think Lily is a bad person, but I do think she's used to everyone bending to her feelings, especially me. Still, missing my sister's wedding feels like a permanent fracture. AITA for refusing to attend after what happened. AITA for refusing to let my sister bring her kids to my wedding after she ignored every boundary I set. AITA for refusing to let my sister bring her kids to my wedding after she ignored every boundary I set. I'm 29F and getting married to my fiancé, Mark 31M, in 3 months. We've been together for 6 years, lived together for 4, and this wedding has been something we've planned carefully because we're paying for almost all of it ourselves. We're not rich, just organized, and we decided early on that we wanted a smaller, calmer wedding. One of the biggest decisions we made was that it would be child-free, except for my fiancé's niece who is 16 and will be her junior photographer. This wasn't about hating kids. It was about the venue, the schedule, and the fact that we wanted a certain atmosphere without worrying about noise, safety, or childcare logistics. I have an older sister, Jenna, 34F, who has 3 kids, 8M, 6F, and 3M. Jenna has always been very vocal about how her kids are her world, which is fine, but she also has a long history of assuming that everyone else should revolve around them too. Family dinners start late because she's running behind. Holidays get rearranged because one kid is overtired. She brings them to events she wasn't supposed to, laughs when they touch things they shouldn't, and says kids will be kids when anyone looks uncomfortable. When we sent out save the dates, we clearly noted adult-only celebration. I called Jenna personally before the invitations even went out to explain. I told her this wasn't personal, that we loved her kids, but the venue had strict rules and we wanted a child-free day. She got quiet and said she understood, but her tone changed. After that, she barely spoke to me for weeks. Then the passive-aggressive comments started. She'd say things like, "Must be nice to not have to worry about babysitters," or "I guess some people think kids ruin everything." I ignored it at first. I didn't want to fight. I just kept repeating that the decision was final. Things escalated at my bridal shower. My mom hosted it, and Jenna showed up with all 3 kids without telling anyone. The kids ran around, knocked over a drink table, and her youngest had a full meltdown during gift opening. I was mortified, not because of the kids themselves, but because it felt like a test, like she wanted to see if I'd cave. Afterward, I pulled her aside and told her calmly that this was exactly why we wanted the wedding to be child-free. She blew up and accused me of shaming her kids and acting like they were a burden. A week later, Jenna sent a long message in the family group chat saying she was heartbroken that her children weren't considered family enough to attend my wedding. She said I was choosing aesthetic over blood, and that my wedding would be remembered as the day I excluded my own nephews and niece. Several relatives chimed in telling me to reconsider, that it was just one day, and that I'd regret it. Mark and I talked it through again. We even called the venue to confirm that allowing children would violate our contract. They said yes, and that if we did, we could be fined or even shut down mid-event. Armed with this, I called Jenna again and explained everything. I told her we would help pay for a babysitter, even for overnight if she wanted, and that the kids could stay at the hotel with childcare. She refused and said she didn't trust strangers with her kids. Here's where I might be the asshole. After that call, I told her that if she couldn't come without the kids, then I understood if she chose not to attend at all. I said it calmly, but I meant it. I was done negotiating. She started crying and accused me of disinviting her and breaking up the family. Now, my parents are involved. My dad thinks I should just let it go and allow the kids because family comes first. My mom says she understands my point, but worries about the long-term damage to my relationship with my sister. Jenna has stopped talking to me completely and told other relatives that I hate her kids and that I'm turning into a selfish bridezilla. What hurts the most is that this is supposed to be a happy time, and instead I feel like I'm being punished for setting a boundary. I bent over backward to accommodate everyone else, but this one thing feels non-negotiable to me. Mark fully supports me and says if we give in now, this will never stop. So AITA for standing my ground and refusing to let my sister bring her kids to my child-free wedding, even if it means she won't come at all. Thank you for watching until the end. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss new videos. Also, leave a comment. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Your support and engagement mean a lot to me. See you in the next video.